Hello everybody, how are y'all doing? I hope that you've all been well because today I bring you guys with a new and improved video. I'd safely say that without your constant support and endless ideas that all of you have given me, this video wouldn't have been possible because as you read the title, I'm going to be giving you guys some tips and recommendations to improve on character designs. Now before we begin, I wanted to give you guys a small disclaimer, just in case. This video is in no way to replace any sort of professional advice given by professional artists, because I'm mostly going to be explaining general tips that helped me improve in character design. But if you're looking for just general information on how to design characters and some tips that will eventually help you, then please be my guest. And I hope you really enjoyed this video. Segment number 1. Researching and writing down your own ideas. To start off with, one of the most important points that I feel like is crucial for you to begin a character design is to start drafting your ideas. And what I like to do first is just writing down the main personality traits for my specific character. If you're unsure where to start, then start by asking yourself a couple of questions so you know where your direction is going. A crucial question could be, what main motif should I make my character stand out in? Just maybe think about the shows or games that you really like and take some of the designs that you find very appealing to then study them. Not to such an extreme degree when you're taking apart every single little aspect of the character, but just getting a general idea about them. For example, most of my characters are implicitly inspired by other characters within existing medias, but not to a massive extent. Of course, to a point where I'm not actually plagiarizing the character because, that's something that I feel like a lot of people don't really take into consideration. That isn't to say that you can't take inspiration from any sort of media. I mean, that's literally the main point that I'm trying to give you here. But to copy every single little aspect of another existing character isn't really the way to go, because eventually you're going to get accused of plagiarism, and of course you're not going to want any of that. To conclude this segment, there's also a very important thing that I think it's absolutely crucial when you're trying to get ideas is to just use Pinterest or other sort of social medias that help you get a source of inspiration for your design. I can safely say that Pinterest is the main social media that I use for designing my characters and when I want to get a source of inspiration. However, I do know the amount of controversies that they have encountered recently, and I do encourage people to maybe use other sites, but the internet is a massive place. You could pretty much find your sources of inspiration anywhere, whether it be fashion magazines, shows, video games, web series, comics, mangas. There are endless amount of sources that you could get your inspiration from. I think that's plenty of information for this segment, so let's go straight to the next one. Segment number 2. Shape, language, and silhouettes. For quite some time, I have ignored the recommendation of putting your characters in a black silhouette to see if they would be recognizable from one another. And knowing myself, I probably would have continued ignoring this recommendation from a lot of people, but soon enough, I started experimenting it with my own characters to see if the recommendation of it was legit. And I could safely say 100% that it is a very helpful tip for people that want to make characters. In its own form, I think that shape language is very intertwined with the concept of character silhouettes because it includes a lot of messages that we could decipher just by looking at a character and their specific shapes. You can have a lot of liberty classifying the meaning of each one of your shapes, but I personally use the following. I like using spiky and triangular forms for characters that are somewhat evil or scary because it kind of provokes us a threatful feeling, some would say. So I'm going to use this example in one of my characters that I feel like you guys have seen before. I'm not sure, but I posted him on my social medias once. It would be this lad right here. He is a villain in a story that I'm working on, and just by looking at him, I feel like a lot of people would already tell that he has some kind of evil aura to him. I don't know how to explain it, but as you can see, this character has a lot of spikes and a lot of triangular forms. Thanks to a friend that pointed that out to me that the shape language is really good, and shout out to them because I really didn't notice it before, but yeah. I'm gonna use the same justification for another character that I have, but this character isn't really a villain or does he have any ulterior motives in my personal story, but he is a confident lad. He is somebody that's kind of scary, but once you get to know him, he practically becomes a massive softball. But as many people believe, triangular forms could also be associated with strength and power. So yeah, this guy is very powerful, you could say. When it comes to circles and curves, I like to imagine the characters as bubbly and optimistic. On that note, while I was researching for this part of the script, I came across this website that explains a lot about shape psychology, and it actually aligns with a lot of the descriptions that I have been sharing with you guys. But in this case, I'm going to be talking about the shape language for circles. Even if it explains more about brands and how to market certain things, I think it's very in hand with character design, so I kind of don't care. I'm going to paraphrase this part that I found really cool. Circular forms in design can provoke us a sense of inclusivity and harmony, as its image lacks any hard edges. We could associate these aspects with optimism and other positive emotions. An OC of mine fits this description perfectly, as you can see by these drawings. Finally, when it comes to organic shapes, those shapes that lack any sort of linear structure usually represent feelings of beauty and freedom. In a sense, they are considered imperfect due to lacking any symmetry or concrete forms, which is why I'm pulling up another one of my creations into the discussion. As you can see, a lot of her elements just flow. In simple terms, her hair is going through a lot of different directions, and her clothing lacks a specific pattern. But really, that's okay. Because personally, I love associating imperfections with beauty. As much as my designs sometimes don't make much sense, adding variety and spice is what I think really brings some of my characters to life. I got really inspired writing this part, so if it sounds a little different, I'm glad, because talking about this makes me very happy. I definitely recommend you checking out those videos that go more in depth about shape language. That will definitely help you in the long run. In the meantime, get ready for our next segment. Segment number 3, expressions. Now, if you're an artist like me and you've been on the internet for quite some time, it's very likely that you have heard the term of same-face syndrome. And if you have, you're already tired of overhearing this over and over again, but there's a good reason for that. If you're one of the few people that hasn't heard this term before, then let me just give you a simple description. It refers to when characters are different from one another, share the exact same expressions, eyes, face, and every single facial feature that you could think of. I used to be quite guilty of this when I used to make designs back then in like 2020, but right now I realize the importance of actually making each expression different. Now I'm gonna tell you why. If each one of your characters has the same exact expression to their face, it's going to be really hard for people to decipher their personality, because I feel like the face is the main part that gives us a hint of how the character acts. By this, I try playing around a little bit with the details on the person's face. Maybe I give the character bigger pupils, or maybe I add little stars to their eyes. I am still trying to get better in making facial features and facial structures because I have noticed some inconsistencies that I would have with my art. Not exactly inconsistencies, but more like making their faces a little too similar from one another. So with time, I started experimenting with new details, pretty much. Segment number 4, colors and finding the right contrast. Personally, my favorite part of designing a character is giving them the proper colors. I'm not going to go too in depth about color theory and every single one of its little aspects, but I have incorporated it to my designs because it is really important. These tips that I've discovered just a few years ago really did help me, and I mean a lot, so I hope they help you too. When trying to pick colors, it's good to incorporate swatches of colors you find appealing. And if you're not sure what colors to pick, you can associate them with personalities. Is the character you're making passionate at what they do, or are they kind of aggressive? Think of saturated and striking colors, or maybe look up red tones to see the massive amount of options you could get. Same for other swatches you're trying to plan out. A gloomy character could represent less saturated tones, like blue, or these other colors that give off the same vibe. Here are some other examples for personalities I like associating with these respective colors. And finally, when it comes to the more detailed part of where to incorporate each color, it's best to contrast between the most important elements of the character from the least important ones. Let's take a librarian, for example, a design that I did in under 5 minutes. Don't give too much attention to it. If you put colors that have a similar saturation and brightness together, it's going to be harder to decipher the character's elements. So try changing the brightness to one of the elements so that it's better for people to see what's going on. Segment number 5, never feeling restricted. This part is kind of unscripted, and it's more of a motivational message for people that are unsure if they should stay in their comfort zone and not really do a lot of research on their stuff. So I'm just gonna be telling you this. I recommend just going ham, like just straight up getting inspired with so many things at once, and maybe just try not to think of something that's just lingering at the bottom of your head, like I'm not sure if I should add this design element to my character. And if you're still questioning on that, maybe try it, and then if you're not too satisfied with it, then you could just change it and tweak it a little bit. I mean, that is literally the meaning of making drafts and trying to figure out what's best for your final result. Of course, please do use references. Use as many as you need and the ones that fit you the most. To conclude this video, to people that have been wanting some tips on character design or they're kind of unsure of where to start, I really do hope that some of my tips have helped you, or at least just one. That was practically my main objective in this video. Also, because Art Fight is really near and I kind of wanted to give you guys a little source of inspiration if you needed it, and I really hope it helped. But yeah, I'll see you in the next one, and please have an amazing day. Bye-bye!